Hi, and welcome to the Simulation International Internet Basketball Association's Dirty South podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the trade deadline, which is coming up with our next sim. We're going to talk about the teams that need to acquire some people to bolster their team, and the teams that are ready to hit the reset button a little early. So let's get started by taking a look with the state of the league right now. Right now, the teams in home court position in the Western Conference are the Los Angeles Mamba, the Kansas City Coyotes, the Phoenix Scorpions, and the Oklahoma City Outlaws. And in the East, we have Washington Eagles, the Atlanta Attack, and I've got to scroll on my screen, Jacksonville and New York. We got a couple teams lurking there, and then we have a few teams that are totally out of it already and probably looking to make some changes. So we're going to start by talking about the teams that are looking to be buyers. I'm going to introduce a few teams, and Kelley and I will talk a little bit about what they might want to do. And then Kelley has a little bit for us on the players who might want to be changing teams from that perspective of things. And then we'll wind up talking about the teams that are looking to get rid of some players and then finish up with some potential fake trades. So the first team I have on my list, Kelley, is Los Angeles Mambo, top team in the league. What are they looking at this year to make the next move?
Well, do they really need to make any moves, Van? I'm like, they made a key move last off season,
They did that.
and all the GMs, including myself, figured that they would take a step back and it would be a gap year. They would be competitive, but they wouldn't contend. Well, that's not true. They have the best record in the league, and Rob Scott has taken back over the LA Mamba as the leader, as he has been since he started in this league. And not only do they
Absolutely.
have him, but they also have the current Rookie of the Month, who's probably the front runner for Rookie of the Year.
Larry Piatkowski. He's been amazing. They made that trade and gave up the playoff MVP for the first pick in the draft. The first pick in the draft was not Larry Piatkowski, who's the prohibitive rookie of the year candidate right now. That first pick in the draft has spent the entire year in the D League so far. So they managed to do this without fully replacing the player. I do have to say that Joe Anderson, who they picked up in that deal at center, and Elder Stateman, Abe Hirsch, who's been great, have filled in for Blake Moore as a regular season player. We'll have to see if they can stand in for the playoff MVP once the playoffs roll around. Looking at that roster, the only thing I see is maybe they want a slightly better backup point guard than David Arden, but he looks pretty good to me. But I've seldom had a 16 point per game backup point guard.
Yeah, well, I know when he was with Philadelphia, he played last year. He played some key minutes, even though it was a bad team. He filled in very well as the starter, coming, and then he filled his bench role actually very well too. So he may be enough, but I agree with you. They could upgrade in that position. Right now, like I said, I'm looking at their roster, and the only area that maybe might need a little bit more touching is maybe the backup power forward position. But if he sits and holds still, he could be right there at the end battling for the championship.
Yeah, I don't anticipate any moves, but you never know with Ron. He is a special general manager, and for all we know, he may tell us he's trading for Rick Lawson tomorrow, and we'll just blow our
True
minds or
statement.
something like that.
That is a very true statement. Yes, he is definitely a wild card when it comes to the trades.
Yeah. Next team on my list is the East leading Washington Eagles, back on top where they used to be after before a couple unexpected down years for that team. Um, what I think they need is maybe a better three. One, two, four, and five. They are super strong. They have depth. They're adequate. But if they could find someone small forward who was a little bit of an upgrade there, and to do that while they're over the cap, they'd have to send out some matching salary. But they do own all of their picks going forward. So someone who has a potential small forward that they don't need for next year, give Washington a call and see if you can make a deal to get some future picks out of them.
Absolutely. And right now, like you said, they're sitting at the top of the East. And so many people will say, well, they may not need to do anything. But I agree with you. The gap at the small forward position is what makes them the elite contender in the East. And then also some depth center position would help them as well too to solidify that hold that they have on top of the East. Bryant is a very good GM. He's always in contention. He's gotten two finals. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's won a finals actually. And
I believe
so
that's right.
he's always there. He usually makes the right moves, right adjustments. But those two moves, especially at the small forward position, can definitely help him keep a hold to that top seed in the East.
Next up on my list is the Phoenix Scorpions, who we talked about last podcast as potentially one of the more disappointing teams in the league. And I don't think they've lost a game since then. I'm very glad I stuck my neck out and said they would regress to the mean and turn out to be as good as we had thought. That is the best big three in SIBA, in my opinion. What they're looking for is depth because somehow with three guys making more than the mid level, they're over the first apron. So it's going to be some tough doing. I had a brief chat with the GM yesterday, and what they are looking for is someone who can be a microwave off the bench for them, give them some minutes, give them some points while the starters sit. So if you see a match on that team and you've got somebody who fits that bill, um, I think a couple of those guys have been moved already in the past few days. But if you have somebody you think can fit that bill for Phoenix, chat with them. They are over the first apron, so they can't aggregate, or they can't take back. They can aggregate, but they can't take back any more than they send out. They don't have. They're light on picks till 37, but they got a fair number from 37 and later. If that's the area you're looking to add in.
Yeah, no, I agree. Phoenix is always one of those teams that, ever since SIBA has been created, has been at the top of the leaders board. Whether they were a computer team, and when they were a computer-owned team, that owner just doled out cash, and they were always in a luxury tax. And now that they have a human owner, he borderlines around the second apron and the first apron, usually consistently, but he's smart with his money. He gets the players that he needs. The one thing that I would say is I do agree that if they could get someone to come off the bench to give them a scoring punch, but also just get some bench depth as needed, because right now they only have 12 players on their main roster. So if they get a major injury, they will be looking for the free agent to bring in, and it may be picking from the scrap heap just to fill a roster so they can play. So if they can facilitate a trade to maybe bring in a scorer and a couple of young players that can step in when needed, when called upon, that will be good for them. But once again, being a competitor in the West against them in LA is usually a battle between us three, um, to see who gets to be the represents the West.
That's right. Next on the list would be Atlanta, currently second in the East. We talked a lot about them before we went on the air. And if you look at that team on paper, it's just about perfect. But they have a couple centers who I don't think are living up to their reputation on the court. So I would say if Jeremy can find a way to turn one of those centers and maybe some draft capital, they have no first in the next couple of years, and then all their own after that, into someone who plays on the court like he looks on the bench, then that might be the difference for this team.
Yes, no, I agree. We did talk about it. I talked with Jeremy earlier in the season, and I love the trade that he made. I love him picking up a Boogie Dudley. He looks
That
the
was a
part.
shot worth shooting.
Yes, his numbers scream across the board. If I was in Atlanta's shoes, I would have made the same trade. You're going to give me
I would have
a
too.
guy like that who's young, can be maybe an anchor to my franchise. I would have did it 10 out of 10 times, but I don't know what it is. I don't know how you can get him motivated, but it's just something about him, his personality, that he just does not perform how his numbers look on paper. And so, not saying
Absolutely.
I would move off of him, but if you can move off of him and bring in a more polished center, or how about this, a more hungrier center who wants to compete, then I would definitely do that. And I think that would get Atlanta over the top to really challenge Washington for that number one seed.
Agreed. A person of Boogie's stature and playing time should not be pulling down less than 10 boards a game. That's what leaves me curious as to what's going on there.
I agree. Not when you're 98 in offensive rebound. You should be getting
Yeah.
at least 5 or 6 offensive rebounds a game with that rating. But I don't know if it's not that he doesn't get paid. He's getting money.
Hmm.
He's just not motivated. I don't know. Only thing I can chalk it up to be is like somebody like when Golden State in the NBA drafted Wiseman.
Yeah, I
That
was actually thinking of DeAndre Ayton.
oh, there you go. Either one of them. Either one of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that brings us to your squad. Kansas City Coyotes currently third in the West. What are you looking for at the deadline here?
We just recently made a trade. We recently made a trade. Had Scott, who I had high hopes for him, but he just couldn't crack the lineup and off coming off my bench. Great player. I just couldn't find any minutes, and so he was sitting there. And uh, Penny DM'd me last night. We facilitated a trade after I ran the sim. And I brought in, like I was telling you earlier, I brought in the positive Boardman brother, uh, who's power forward. Uh, he's a decent passer. And so hopefully I can maneuver him into the lineup to give me more structure as far as my bench role goes, as far as the positions that everybody is playing. So I don't have so many players playing out of position. And then his personality matches with my team. So hopefully that can continue to keep our team and personality, no conflicts going, and he can come in and contribute off the bench. Um, my
Absolutely.
team is like hit and miss. If we are hitting shots, then we can beat anybody because our defense is one of the best defenses in the league. It
Absolutely.
doesn't matter if we can hit shots. If we're not hitting shots, it can be a long day. So somehow I have to get my point guards to continue to keep facilitating the ball, but getting the ball in better spots for us to score the ball in the basket.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to my old team, the Jacksonville Jackals. They are the lone team on our list of potential buyers with cap space. They have over $17 million in cap space. That's largely because I utterly failed to sign a starting shooting guard. I had better offers out for two guys who signed for the minimum, but you can't control people who are unrestricted free agents, and they decided they wanted to be elsewhere. But that is the only hole on this team, um, other than maybe some chemistry issues that are budding. But the new GM seems to be handling better than I did. But if they can get a starting shooting guard that fits with the rest of that roster, preferably somebody who can really shoot it, that's going to be a powerful team.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. We'll get into it a little bit later, or some of the players that may be available. But yes, if they can get that shooting guard, when they actually when you I won't say they when you facilitated the trade to get Blakemore
Hmm.
to team him up with Alexander, I was like, wow. And then Johnson, you already have a big three. And so now they can get that fourth player to come in and just glue it all together. They will be a dangerous team, and they will be one of the teams in the East that will be tough to defend because I think that they have the best duo in the league with Alexander and Blakemore.
Yeah, I think Alexander's going to be the best player in SIBA at some point in time. It's just a matter of when. Um, that brings us to the OKC Outlaws, which are the other team that puzzled me looking through it. Um, that team, top to bottom, looks super strong. And so we did a little more digging, you and I, right before the pod started, looking through the lineup tracking. And it looks like to me the black hole is more Springer at 3 off the bench. When he comes in, their on off numbers plummet. So if they can find a way to get more production, I don't know if it's more production or better defense. I didn't look deeply enough, but that looks like the spot on that roster that needs to improve for them to be the team they want to be.
Yes, yes. Sometimes, and I tell all GMs this because I know I hear a lot of time and look in the chats that, well, he's a 4-star or he's a 5-star, and yeah, he may be a 4 or 5-star, but
They're not
you
all
have
the
to
same,
look
though, are
deeper
they?
than just the stars. You have to
Yeah.
look at the numbers. And so, looking at what you said, I think we looked and they were a minus 61 and plus and minus when he's on the court with the starters. He comes in with the
Yeah.
starters. They drop off from a positive to a minus 61. Well, if you look at the numbers, he's a 53 in defense.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so,
they go from a positive 16 per 100 possession to a minus 10 when he steps on the court with the starters. And
yeah,
that's what's
so
bringing him down right now.
and so sometimes you have to look beyond the stars to actually look to get the quality players because um, Gary from the Wolverines, no matter what league it is, a 2.5-star player is a starter in the game, in in the pro game. 2.5 stars. So anything over that, is you're doing superb. But every 5-star, every 4-star player don't mean that, okay, I got 5 4-star players, my team should beat everybody.
Right.
You have to look at the numbers, you have to look at the personalities and all that. And for whatever reason, Springer seems like he is the draw that brings OKC down. And
Yep.
then, like we talked about earlier, if they can just get some depth on the bench, because right now they're only playing 8 players. And at some point, that's going to wear your starters down when it comes playoff times. And that's where injuries happen. So they need to get some depth to add to their bench. And then, even though Springer looks good, I would
He
probably
just might
move
be a
off of
fit. He looks like a good player. He just may not be a right fit with the rest of the players he's playing with. That brings us to 4 in the East, which is currently the New York Metros, who had an uncommon down year last year, but they've really rebounded well. What do the Metros need moving forward here? It looks like they just made a trade. Do you think that closes up their dealing, or do you think there may be something else?
Well, I don't know because at the beginning of the season, I remember he wanted all expiring contracts because it sounded like he was going to blow his team up. And
Yep.
then he facilitated a trade and he got Dent. And so now I don't know if he's going all in to try to be competitive or if he's like halfway in and building for the future to be competitive next season. But I do know that him bringing in Clark for giving, he gave up, I want to say he gave up Freeman, who was a bench player, almost a D League player, is a huge upgrade. So it just depends on how he uses him. Right now, I don't see him cracking his starting lineup, but if he can come and be a key contributor off the bench, he is a decent young. He is one of the shooting guards that I was high on for this trade market to go help a playoff team. So depending on how he wants to use Clark in his lineup, it can be a difference to where he can climb out of that 4th spot in the East.
Now, with that, we're through the guys who currently hold home court in the playoffs. If playoffs started now, I did include in my buyers the 2 teams, one in each conference, that were within 2 wins of home court. So the next team on my list is the New Orleans Bears, which is a team you and I both have always enjoyed talking about. One of the teams we've really enjoyed watching their build because it's not necessarily the way you or I would have gone about it, but it's a calm, methodical way that makes that team better every single year. Right now, they're really close. They just made a trade for Kelly Asbury. They're over the cap. They've got a lot of pick capital if they need to make another swing. But my guess, just off the cuff, would be based on the pace of their build today. They're probably done with Asbury. What do you think?
I agree. I agree. He was. I know you have someone else listed on your availability for as far as available players or trade deadline. But when the GM for Columbus posted that he was available, he was my number one person in the free agent market because as a 2-year starter, he was averaging close to 20 points a game. He's a defender. He spreads the floor, and he's young. I want to say he's 25, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's 25 years old. So, and he's on a great contract. So, for someone to go into trade talks, yep, no, 26. He's 26. For someone to go into trade talks and need a shooting guard, but not willing to pull the trigger on their future first, to me, they weren't ready to compete. They're
Right.
not ready to go that extra step to go get the player they need to hopefully think that they're getting them over the hump. Because I think he is that player. Is
Yeah.
yet to be seen. I think he's going to be that player for New Orleans, especially how they play and how their team is structured. Like you said, you look at that team and you're like, okay, yeah, they a mediocre average team, but right
Yep.
now they're not that far out of being the top one, two, or three teams in the West, and we know that the West is a dogfight.
It is. It is. They in Boston, I think, are the poster children for don't rely on the star rankings. If you look at stars, those teams are could not do what they are actually doing on the court. Those are well crafted ball clubs put together by a GM who's looking beyond star ratings. And that brings me to the last buyer on my list, although I suspect there will be more, and that is the currently fifth seeded in the East Montreal Argos. They are over the cap, but they are well set up with picks with all of their owns and an extra swap in 36. What do you think the Argos would benefit from for the stretch run?
Looking at their structure of their team, they're 10, 11 players deep. And so if I'm looking at them, probably the one area that I would say if they could get an upgrade where it wouldn't rob them of a bunch of picks or put them way over the cap, is a backup point guard. If they could get a backup point guard that's better than Warren, not that Warren is not a serviceable point guard, but if they could get a backup point guard, I think that would help them um, be able to create better shots for when they play their bench players, get them more open shots. Because as we know, Brittany is one of those GMs that always, some way, finds herself at the end in a dogfight, whether it's in the finals, conference finals, or the second round of the playoffs. She's always that GM. And so if she can get that one person, I think that would help her solidify, getting ready to fight to win it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent a lot of years in the East, and I know that New Jersey, Montreal, Columbus, and New York always gave you better series than you thought you were going to get when you previewed it. So they certainly know how to put a roster together and do it. And hey, if you're looking for a backup point guard, Brittany, Benny Oliver is extremely available at a very good price. He's not a starter. He's a good backup. All right, let's shift gears a little bit here and shift from a team by team look to looking from the player perspective. You did some research, Kelley, on players who you thought were looking for a new home. Let's talk through those a little bit. Who do you think might be agitating within the clubhouse for a new address?
Well, we know that when we talk about players who are upset, we know that two names every season is always going to be
Always on that
mentioned.
list. Yes.
One is Lopez, and
Uh
one
huh.
is the other angry brother, Boardman. And
Yeah.
so we know that just recently, Rasheem Lopez, from he was on Toronto, just got facilitated in a trade with Detroit, and so now he has a new home at Detroit. And Detroit owner is extremely excited about his new look roster, new look lineup. We just have to wait and see how he acts because when he was at Toronto, he was literally on 1% from his teammates, liking his teammates. So Is he gonna be happy there, or is he gonna be a cancer there as well?
Yeah, I can tell you, he played for my team before, and that young man wants to win games and he wants to score points. And if he's getting the opportunity to score points and your team's winning, not a problem to be had. Second, he loses touches or the team loses games, you're going to have discussions a lot.
And then the second person, of course, is Martin Boardman. He's always been angry. No matter what team he's on, he'll get traded and be green for maybe 2 Sims, and then you look up and he's red again. I don't know what any GM can do to make him happy. Right now, his is at 1% on teammates relationship as well, and so those two were always the main two that name anytime we talk about potential trades and team problems and everything. But there are some names on this list that are interesting, and so
Absolutely.
we know that we talked about him earlier, Trey Clark. He just got traded from Philadelphia to New York. He's a young player, and so we'll see what um, environment that he brings to the New York organization to see if he can get them over the hump. But a couple of names that are real interesting on this list, we have Finn Metternich from Chicago. He is
The tulip.
always, yes, Tulip. He is always one that teeters on the line of being happy and unhappy. Me, myself, personally, I will tell Jedi until I'm blue in the face, I am not trading him. I would
He
do my
is on the
best.
short list of best players in the league and probably the second best scorer in SIBA. Um,
Yes,
he's another one that seems to be team success related. So I think as Jedi continues to build that franchise out, hopefully he can get that turned around. Um, good luck to him.
yes, yes. And so he was one that was on my list. And then, that really surprised me was Tremaine Wilson from Washington. I know that Brian is really high on him. I know that he doesn't like the coach, and he's below average on his teammates. And I know that he gets playing time, but I don't know what emails Brian has gotten on him, if
Yep.
he's gotten any. But that kind of surprises me because he is a young player on a young contract.
Yeah, it's not like there's any possibility of more money the way the salary structure works in the league right now. So it's not that. It doesn't seem to be opportunity. Brian's playing the young man. Um, that's going to take some monitoring because he is a talented young player.
And then that brings us to someone who you know very well, Van. Brings us to Stanley Townsend from Jacksonville, the point guard.
Stanley
Right
is a
now,
talented and temperamental young man. Um, it's going to take some hand holding. I think it's going to be a lifelong thing in SIBA. Everyone's going to want Stanley from what he does on the court, and everyone's going to have some struggles with him when they have to counsel him in the locker room on being a little more friendly to his teammates.
absolutely. And like we talk about, don't look at the stars. He's one of those players that the star advertises who he actually really is. But somehow, if Jacksonville can monitor his attitude, I think he can definitely, he's already that third player, but he can even elevate Alexander and Blakemore even more so if he can just get along with his teammates.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's where the personalities that you and I were talking about, and that the game added a couple editions ago, we're going to play in. Um, I think if you have a star who fits better temperamentally with Stanley than his current team is, he would be somebody I would look at trading for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, and then this one caught me. I mean, it didn't catch me off guard, but I was surprised by. I'm gonna circle back to Calgary, but JP Rosser from Vancouver. Um, he had low percentage as far as organization, and I want to say he's a 4th-year player, and he was, as a computer owned team, he was one of the main keys to their driving going forward. But I don't know what it is. Just looking at their lineup, I know he's playing out of position because he's a small forward, and I think they have him playing power forward. I don't know what his main issue is, but he's on this list of being players that are looking at to be traded.
That's interesting to know. It's especially interesting to note with a fourth year player because he'll be a restricted free agent this offseason, which would make me as a GM very interested in moving him to let him be somewhere happier when you're exercising his RFA rights. Or as another GM, I would be saying, hey, this is a possible way I can pry him out as a free agent or make a trade for him ahead of his restricted free agency if I know he's unhappy in his current locker room.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so now we circle back to the Calgary public service announcement, talking about Jace
Absolutely.
Tucker.
Friends and
Right now,
neighbors. Jace
he
Tucker is a very good basketball player. He's not a starter, but he's your sixth or seventh man. He's very good. He is so sick of losing games in Calgary, which is all they've done for 4 years, and he's really mad at me because I'm starting my number 5 overall pick ahead of him, even though he is significantly better than Cedric Crooks is at this point in time. Um, Come get him. If you need your top forward off the bench to be a good guy, come get him. He is extremely available. He makes just over 12 million, so it's not a hard salary match to come up with. Come get him, make him happy. He doesn't want to be here anymore.
so Van, what are you asking for?
Honestly, it depends on what's coming back. If you have 12 million in cap space, I would take a second round draft pick for him. My in a perfect world, if you have a guy around 12 million who's maybe got some upside but doesn't fit on your current needs, just a straight up salary swap would be great. But if you have a $15 million player who is terrible, then I'm happy to swap a very good player for your terrible player for a first.
There you go. That's the Calgary public service announcement on Jace Tucker. Please come and rescue him out of Calgary. He's begging
Please
you.
make him happy. He's a good guy.
Yes. So and last is Petrino Dryden. He's one of the Dryden twins. He's
Yes.
at Philadelphia, and he's a center. And what is it with twins? Why do you have a good brother and a bad? What is it? What is it with?
This is the one that makes me laugh because it looks like to me he's mad at the fact that his brother gets playing time and he doesn't. I don't know if that when I look at what his drivers are and why he's upset. It seems to me that he's mad that his brother's playing over him.
Could be, and that could be. I don't know, but I know that if I'm not mistaken, because I get him confused. He was. I think I had him on my team.
Oh, and then Maurice
Yes.
reunited the twins.
Yes. Yeah, I had him on my team. I actually drafted him 18th, and I didn't want to get rid of him, but I'm trying to think. I traded him in. Oh, I traded him. That's how I got Logan. I got
Oh,
Logan.
well, that trade
Yes.
worked out well for you because Adriel Logan has
Yes.
been a monster for
Yes.
you.
I don't know why I was thinking that I thought I traded him to Phoenix first. Well, not Phoenix, but Calgary first to get Adebisi. But yeah, it was Logan. I got Logan in that trade. But yeah, I don't understand why one twin is good and one twin is bad. I'm like I'm waiting for one of the Scott brothers to start having issues in the league because we got three of them, but none of
That's
them,
right.
all of them are happy go lucky. So, but yeah, but no, but other than that, we have a bunch of veterans that are looking to be on playoff teams. We have Duncan Smith, who's a point guard. We have Cesar Vasquez, who's at Indiana, who's a longtime proven power forward veteran. And then we have Ronald Singletary, who's a veteran small forward, and then on Sol's team, David Thurston, who's a power forward. I know at one point, I think he was the one who was looking for a stretch power forward, but for whatever reason, he's unhappy in San Diego. He gets starter minutes, but he's just not getting along with his teammates.
I do know that the pair of those San Antonio guys, Singletary and Schmidt, that is largely frustration with losing too many years in a row. I'm so glad the San Antonio has a GM now because that team has never made the playoffs in the history of this league. And I
Yes,
am sure that the new GM will get that turned around. But I don't think there's any personality issues with either of those guys. They're just tired of losing 60 games a year.
yes, no. And that was one of the teams where, as computer, that their owner did not care about spending money, and they had extreme bad contracts that I think the last one just came off the books this year or the beginning
Well,
of this season.
he's still on the cap as dead money because I cut him before we got the new GM because he was a $34 million player who couldn't crack the lineup and had some attitude issues.
Yeah. So they finally are back on the right side cap wise. So hopefully, the GM can turn them around. But so now we talked about players who are looking to be moved. What are some of the buyers who you think that we have? Some of the buyer teams who you think that need to make that move to get them to the next level?
Well, we mostly went through the buyers earlier. We didn't do much matching yet. I think we're going to get to at the end some suggested trades. I would say, just based on the dissatisfied people you talked about, if you need a true wing rotation level, Ronald Singletary is a good bet. If you need a flexible forward who can play either position, I would look at Chase Tucker. And if you need a power forward who can bang in limited minutes, Cesar Vasquez is fading. But there have been few better power forwards in SIBA history than Cesar Vasquez was at his peak.
Yeah, no, I agree. I 100% agree. And I don't know if you can finagle Wilson away from Washington, but if someone needs a two, if I'm not
Yeah, I'm
mistaken,
going
I
to do
think
some research on JP Rosser after what you said too, because that intrigued me.
yeah, I think he can play three. Yeah, so he can play three as well, Wilson. So if you need a wing, he may be Brian may be somebody you need to talk to as far
Yep.
as um, facilitating the trade.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the sellers then. And by sellers, I'm talking about the 9 teams that had lost at least 30 games already by the previous sim. So let's talk about a little bit about them and what they have to offer up from bottom to top with the current pole position team for the lottery this year, the aforementioned San Antonio Monarchs. Um, and for them, they're 52 million under the cap. I'll mention the cap room with all of these teams because these are also the teams. If say two apron teams are trying to make a trade and they both need to send out a little extra money to make the trade money add up, these are the teams you're talking to. San Antonio Monarchs have 52 million. I don't think there's anybody in SIBA right now they couldn't just absorb if you wanted to make that guy go away. So that is a potential avenue for them. And they do have Singletary, who's a 34-year-old rotation wing on a 12.3 million expiring. If you're a little richer, they have Eddie Johns, who is a 27-year-old center on a 3-year deal, currently at 15.7. If you need a backup center and you can fit 15.7 into your salary structure, I think given the emergence of their rookie center, San Antonio would be happy to make a deal for get Eddie Johns to you. I'm not speaking for any of these GMs. I'm just sort of projecting myself in their place. If I were them, I would be looking to make that salary go away. But Johns is a very solid, capable starting center if that's what you need for your team. Um, Currently in second position in the draft is the Miami Sunbirds. Um, There's not a lot movable, especially aging or expiring. It's a pretty young roster and no real bad contracts. They do have 50 million in cap space. Again, if you need a team to absorb extra salary in a three-way deal, they're really, I think, most marketable player is longtime veteran Joe Kelley, who is not a starter anymore, but he's averaging over 19 points per 36 minutes. If you need a bucket off your bench, he's there and he's making the minimum. If it was me, I would take back your worst player in a good second, and you can have Joe Kelley, and everybody's happy. But that's just a suggested deal. I'm not going again not going to speak for anybody else.
Yeah,
Um, Next team
look
on
at
my list are Vancouver and Toronto. Do either one of those jump out at you, Kelly?
yeah. Well, Vancouver, of course, they have that contract with Mickey Kent for three
Yeah.
years. It's a young team. They have a lot of young talent on that team. Like I said before, don't let the stars fool you. They have some players there, but that Mickey Kent, if you are a playoff running team, um, he is a solid.
Former all defense center, all
Yeah,
defense power forward. He's making 39. So it's going to be a situation where you're probably finding a worse player on your team who makes similar money and then incentivizing Vancouver to take your bad player for their good player at about the same money. But he is a very good player, especially if you need defense off your bench.
absolutely, absolutely. And then Toronto, which just had a new rebranding, changing their names from the Roar to the Mounties, which
Love it.
every GM that I've talked to has given a thumbs up on the rebranding. So I'm
It's an
really
awesome
happy about
logo
that.
too.
Yeah, I'm really happy. Ryan
This one,
was
I'm very intrigued to see what they do. They are one of the most expensive teams in SIBA, so I would suspect that that owner is advocating for shedding some money if he's not going to make a playoff appearance. So they have the GM has publicly said that they are open for business. They would like to sell former champ Michael Melier, who makes 37 this year. He is, I would say, probably one of the best third bananas you could possibly have on a team. If you need him to be your top two option, you're going to end up sad. But if he's your third best player, then you're probably going to win a title like he did in LA. Um, the big enticing thing for me is they have superb defensive center John Walker, 26 years old, making one of the best contracts in SIBA, $12 million. There is no way you're ever going to extend that because he's too good to accept any legal extension off of that. So I think Toronto might be motivated to move him rather than worry about him leaving for nothing in the offseason, especially given their cap situation. It's going to be tough for him to resign him. They can go further over to resign him, but it's going to be tough and it's going to be a lot of money. And at 12.6, there is not a team in SIBA that can't figure out a way to fit 12.6 million on the roster and find some matching salary for that. I think that is one of the most valuable commodities likely to change hands at the trade deadline. Is somebody's going to get an all defense caliber center for very little salary cap room at the
I agree.
expense of the headache of trying to get him to resign this summer.
Yep, I agree. I agree. I was super surprised when Chicago actually traded him. I mean, they had Walker and Metnich together, and then he ended up on Phoenix, I think. And I've been trying to facilitate and trying to figure out how to get him, but who I wanted to give up to get him. I just haven't been able to figure it out. But yes, I
Yeah,
agree with you. A 26-year-old defensive center, if you're looking for him to score 20, 30 points, he's not
he
your
can't do
guy.
that.
But if you're looking for him to anchor your middle and solidify your inside, he is definitely the guy for you.
Yeah, if you're an NBA fan, think of like the best possible version of Clint Capella. He's not going to take any shots away from any of your good players. He's going to rebound like crazy. He's going to block a ton of shots. Um, but as long as you don't need him to score, because he can't do that. Never has, never will. Outside of that, he's a great fit.
Yes.
That brings me to my current team, Calgary. I've already done my PSAs for Benny Oliver and his RFA rights and Jace Tucker. I went into the season thinking I would probably flip Derek Benham, another solid vet, at the trade deadline for somebody who had suffered a terrible injury. That hasn't happened this year, thank goodness. It's been our best year since I've been in the league in SIBA for season-ending injuries. So he will probably be on the market as a buyout very soon. But if you do have a $31 million player on your roster who is awful, I'm willing to trade, happy to trade Derek Benham, who's a very good player, uh, for him and a pick. Uh, that's just my last PSA with that, which brings us to Philadelphia. And this is my other, will most likely to make a huge difference at the deadline. Corey Newby is on an expiring. I don't know if Maurice will trade Newby. He and I differ on players, and he's usually right and I'm wrong. But he makes 22 million. Which is pretty easy to fit into a salary structure. He's one of the best shooting guards available on the market. Um, if I were still Jacksonville, I would be DMing Maurice every day to say, "Are you sure you won't send him to me? I'm sure we can find something that'll make you happy." But if you need a two guard, give Philadelphia a call.
Yeah. When you added this name, I knew he was an expiring contract, and I looked at it, and I agree. I was like, I don't think Maurice would trade him. But then I went and I looked and I researched. I know at one part of the season he didn't play him. He was on the bench. He sat him out of the lineup. So
Oh, maybe more available than we had thought.
yeah, I know he may be more available. I know he's not up on his trade block board, but as pretty much any GM, anybody is tradable if you come with the right offer. So
Absolutely. There are a
so
couple guys in the league that's not true for, but for everybody else, it's true for.
but yeah, no,
I don't
I
think
agree.
I don't think you could offer Drawn anything that would get Hollywood Rob out of LA.
No, he almost traded him.
Oh,
He almost traded him. He almost traded him, but it was a good trade, but it wasn't good enough, and he held off. He held off. But it was right after he won his first championship. So, but no, now that, in my personal opinion, now that Ashbury is gone, Newbie is probably the next best shooting guard that's available at the trade market. I will agree with you on that
all right. I've got two more teams I think are definite sellers on my list. Detroit, and Detroit is one of the teams that reached out to me. They've already moved half the guys on their block, but they still have Leach and LaRue on the block. Both of them expiring, and the GM says that either one of them is yours for a second if they come back with matching money, or if they just disappear, or they're also happy to take a first if you want to send somebody bad back in exchange for one of them. Definitely worth a look if you're looking for a wing.
one. Yeah,
And then the
no,
last team, I'm sorry, go ahead,
no,
please.
no, no, no. Detroit, yes, they just made a couple of moves, and so, like I said earlier, he's happy with what he's brought back. I don't moving those two guys maybe be all he does, but to improve his team, I don't think he's looking for nothing particular to improve it. But yes, getting rid of those two is definitely in his wheelhouse.
Yep. And they're 31 million ish under. So again, they can absorb some extra salary if you want a good player for your bad player and then throw in some picks for him. And then the last team I had on this list was San Francisco. Um, I'm not sure what they could do or should do at this point. But the one thing that jumped out to me is they have old friend of the program, Josh Morris, on the team, who is somehow still 25 years old, even though I'm pretty sure
No,
he's been in the league longer than I have.
I
He has
know.
a walking double double, makes 43 million, 25 years old. If I thought that was what my team needed, then I would definitely be in touch with San Francisco to find out if there's a way I could employ Josh Morris instead of them.
Yeah, and I can't remember what's on his trade block. I don't know what he's willing to move or not move. I just know he's frustrated because He was at
His lottery,
Toronto.
he's had the worst lottery luck of any GM in the league. The number
Absolutely.
of years that he's ended up with a worse than projected pick is stunning.
Yeah. Him, him or Jedi. Or Jedi is
Yeah.
probably neck and neck, neck and neck.
Yep.
But I know he was at Toronto. When he was at Toronto, he was in the playoffs every year, winning record. And when we did the expansion draft, when both of you guys took over expansion teams, he's had one of the worst records every season. And I don't know what his mindset is right now. I don't know which direction he wants to go. He has young players there. If he can stay patient, I think that he has. I think he may got lucky with LaCruz that he has on his team, the center that he drafted. He looks serviceable. Um, Janik, Janikowska.
Yeah, I love Janikowskis, and I wanted him on my team so bad. And I've tried to trade for him twice, and I've gotten no deal so far. He is not developed the way I thought he would, but I still have dreams.
Yes, no, he still has room to grow, but I don't know. And so Josh Morris may be available if the offer is right. But like you said, he's only 25, and I looked, he's been in the league 7 years.
Yeah, yeah, he
Yeah,
was the youngest guy in the draft the year he came out.
yeah.
That
So
that is my list of buyers and sellers. If I haven't mentioned your team, I have you all in a category that I call the messy middle. And I think that's just GM's choice. I think for every one of those teams that's left, you could talk me into the best case thing for your team would be to sell and rebuild for next year. Or there's several of you that I think are a move or two away. If you did, I just had notes on a couple teams I wanted to mention. Captain's GM reached out to me to say that they are cautious buyers, but they're really holding their powder dry, looking for a superstar deal at the deadline or in the summer. Um, Other than that, I mean, a lot of them fall into the category of like Boston and Memphis that are good teams and they're young teams, and they're probably set up for internal development. And I would assume, won't do much during the season and just hope their youngsters get better. The tough one for me, I would say, would be Portland. They are one of our second apron teams, which is handcuffs, and yet they're not even in within 2 games of home court. So again, I don't want to speak for the GM in any way, but were that my team, I would be plotting avenues to blow that thing up. Um, Not the way
and I
everybody would go, clearly.
well, he's one of my coworkers. I work with him, so we talk on a regular basis, and that's not what he's trying to do. Um,
I don't think it is. I made a
yeah,
couple offers to him to start the blow up, and he was like, "No, I think I have my core. I just need to get the right guys around this core." And
yes,
sure,
yes,
I believe it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes, and that's
those are
that's
good
what
players.
he's always gonna. He's one of those GMs that he's gonna ride around first apron, second apron. If he can stay below second apron, he will. But he was like right at second apron, but then he picked up a couple of free agents that put him over second apron. So now he has to deal with that to see if he can get below the second apron at trade deadline or facilitate a trade, during the offseason that's going to bring him in the first round because after Monday, if you're second apron and you're going to have to cough up a first round. And right
Yep.
now, he doesn't have one.
So that concludes my team by team look. And then you had a category on here where each of us can talk about our three best bets. Is that how you phrased it?
Three
Three
teams
teams
that
that
we
you
think
think
need
most
to
need to
make
make
a
the
trade.
trade.
Yes. And
Okay.
so,
So
I-
you start with your first.
so my first team is Chicago. Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're 10th.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
they're
right.
10th in the conference. They're right behind Milwaukee. Like I said earlier, there's no way if I
Yeah.
was Jedi that I would trade Tulip. I wouldn't trade him. I was trying to surround him with players and try to get that momentum to get better. And so the first thing I would look at for Chicago is I would definitely look for a defensive stopper. It doesn't matter what position. Just somebody who is 80 plus in defense. If I need to in a playoff series put him on their best player, know that he may not stop him, but he'll at least slow him down. And
Yeah.
then I think to help their team, they need a starting small forward. They need a starting small forward. Right now, they have. Uh, yeah, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. This is. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. But basically, he's starting his rookie, Peter T. He's starting his rookie as a small forward to get him playing time. And I don't have a problem with him getting playing time, but I would rather him be coming off the bench to get that playing time. But he needs a starting small forward that can a scoring punch to his roster.
Okay, it makes sense to me. My first one was Jacksonville, and we've already talked about that extensively. Soph agreed with you that Chicago needs to make a move, but he thought they needed to get an upgrade, whatever they could do to get an upgrade at shooting guard. So both of you are talking wings for him, but little disagreement on which wing needs to get upgraded. So what is your second team?
My second team is, as always, like I said on the last podcast, is Minnesota. At some point, you have to decide on what you want to do. I like the fact of what Rick Lawson is doing in the league. He's just dominating the league. But it's hard to win when you are the only thing that your team has. And you are 6 games below 500, and you're sitting in 10th spot in the West, which is, as we said, a battlefield.
It is.
Plus, he's getting paid $50 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I would move Rick Lawson. In that trade, I would try to facilitate a good point guard and a good shooting guard to replace, what I'm losing from Rick Lawson, and whatever picks I can get, I would try to get picks as well. I don't. If I'm going to get to young players, I'm not saying I need 2 or 3 first round picks. Um, is he worth that? Yeah, probably. But my thing is, I would get off the money to restart the rebuild. But I don't. Well, how about this? In my vocabulary, rebuild is not a word. I don't do rebuild. I do restarts. So to restart the process of getting back to competing, that's what I would do. I would get off the money. He's 29. Um, he hasn't started declining yet, but he's at that verge where he's starting to decline, and I can't see paying someone $50 million when he's
Yeah,
on his
it's
side.
I'm less concerned with short-term decline with Lawson, more the timeline for the build around him. If you don't realistically think you can be a contender in 2 years, um, then you probably need to move him now before he loses any value.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, and then Soph agrees with you with the team and reason. And I've already talked about Toronto's need to shed some money, which brings us to your third team.
Third team is San Diego, Soft's team. I think they need a true shooting guard. Right now, they have Nick LaRue, who's actually a shooting guard, but he plays point guard. Um, well, let me check to make sure, because I don't know where Soft has him playing at. Yeah, so he still has him playing point guard. So I think that right now they have John Hill, who's a proven veteran role player starter playing their shooting guard. They're sitting 27 and 24 in the West, which is really good. I think
Really
if they
good.
can get a true shooting guard, and possibly if they can get younger at that position, I think that would help them to be able to move up in that West, in that dogfight in the West, because they have the pieces, they have the defensive players, true real man center in the SIBA.
Absolutely.
So they
Yeah,
need that shooting guard.
he is a man's defender. That is for sure. Um, So that's yours. Mine was Phoenix needing bench buckets. We've already talked that through. Soph had the Metros needing to seize the moment, get bigger in the backcourt, move on from McCrary for an upgrade. We kind of hinted around that with you and I both unsure whether New York was starting a rebuild or retooling. It sounds like Soph urges them to retool and tells them where they need to look at doing that. Um, and then that leaves your bonus team for our last thing of the pod.
Team is Milwaukee. Milwaukee, I, I'm- I won't say I'm disappointed because they're sitting at 500. I know they had some injuries at the beginning of the season, but they just made a trade for your guy, Hamilton Tracy. They
Yeah.
brought him in as the point guard. Uh, Looks like they've been playing him at point guard. They move Ryan Ward off the ball to playing him at the shooting guard, and they bring in Jenkins off the bench. And that's just within the last couple of sims. And so I'm looking at that to see what their direction is. If Jenkins is available, since they brought in Tracy, are they moving away from Jenkins? So if that's the case, he may be a shooting guard that is available, and he signed for 2 seasons and he's making 28 million this year and 30 million next year. And he's a proven scorer. He can shoot from the outside. He's 91 shooting from the outside, and he's a facilitator as well. He can pass the ball, so he may be available. I don't know what their thought process is. I do know it looks like they're going to go with the Tracy and Ward backcourt combination. But I think they need a backup shooting guard for coming off the
Okay.
bench to back up Ward.
I like Ward off the ball better. I think that's his best way. I think he's a tremendous player, one of the best players in SIBA. And Milwaukee was in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, so they know how to build a team. Hopefully, they can build it. I don't see Hamilton Tracy as a starter. I think he's an ideal third guard, but I've been wrong before, and maybe this is something. But Jenkins does sound like a perfect fit if you're a team that is strong inside and just needs some space for your bigs to operate. Maybe hit Milwaukee up and see if he is available.
Exactly. So that's all the team. That's all the teams that I have.
All right, 2 days
We
till the trade deadline. We'll see if anything we talked about actually happens. Hopefully, this is useful to you as you think about what you want to get done now that we have every team in the league filled with people, which makes me so happy.
The only
Kelley,
thing I
thanks for your
ask,
time. Appreciate all your thoughts on this. Thanks, Soph, for doing the production. We did one episode without you, and you realized how bad we need you, and you came back to us. That's all for me. Any parting words from you, Kelley?
only thing I ask that if you're going to facilitate a trade, please get it in as early as possible on Monday, so I'm not up late at night trying to do all the trades. But once again, as always, I love all my human owners that are in the league. I love your guys' participation. Thank you for providing this community. It has helped so many people emotionally. And so I thank you. But also remember, if you're in our pro league and you're an owner, we do have a college league that still has some very good teams available. I know we don't talk about it as much, but hopefully in future podcasts, we will start bringing in talking about some of the college players and everything. So just
And if
remember
my
that.
math If my math is right, we're 2 sims away from opening night in the college league. So it's a perfect time to join. You still have time to get your team all kitted out and ready to start the season.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you can finagle it, please join SICBA, the College League of SIBA. And we look forward to all the owners joining and competing and having fun. And so this is me signing out. Thank you guys. Appreciate all that you do for the league. Thank you, Van, for having me.